Focus now on the economy because government appears to be in a turf war with independent power producers over the proposal to restructure the over $1 billion owed them. Joy News is learning a proposal for debt exchange has been tabled and presented to the 6 independent power producers for study and approval, and some have already committed to the deal. In all, government is seeking to restructure some $2 billion of the $23 billion it is, which is accruing here in the energy sector. Let's bring in Isaac Ofieje, data analyst here at Joy News, helping us to understand what's happening. But there's implication for the energy sector. We'll talk about that shortly. But let's look at the figure in all. How did we come to this? Is it $2.3 billion that we're dealing with?
2.3 billion.
2.3. That's the final amount of we're dealing with.
That's the latest.
How did we get here? Because that wasn't the figure.
That wasn't the figure. We were dealing with somewhere around $1.4 billion, and just over 3 months or 2 months, I think in less than 2 months, we've added more than $1 billion, to the initial $1.4 billion
in just
less than 2 months, because we were talking about $1.4 billion in March and April thereabouts, 1.4, and now we are probably July was when it was updated or something like that. Currently is August, so let's say in a span of 3 months, $1 billion.
So for those who may not get the concept, let's try and break that down. Why is the energy sector becoming a drain on the public purse?
Well, the energy sector is one of the key sources where we put a lot of pressure on government's debt. This is because if you look at our debt, for instance, there are 3 or 4 components that have the biggest part of the pie. The energy sector is one of them. I think currently the total debt of the energy sector is over $3 billion. We also have the banking sector cleanup that we did, which cost us more than 25 billion Ghana cedis. If you rate it in dollars, should be around $3 billion. So if you put away the banking sector cleanup, the next place that always adds up to our debt is the energy sector. This is the reason. You have agreements with independent power producers to produce power. Most of them are take or pay. It means that if they produce a power, whether you use it or you fail to use it, you have to pay for it.
Take or pay. That's
exactly. Take or pay. So if you look at it annually, we generate about $1 billion. That's the energy sector alone, generate annually $1 billion as debt.
Yes.
Now, because of the take or pay agreements we have, excess capacity, energy that we've generated but we did not use, costs us about $500 million every year in terms of debt. So if you do the math, you realize that the energy sector is one area that's always putting a lot of pressure. That's why the IMF was very categorical that they feel that even with this, when we were having the program was around 1.3, they felt that the amount was too huge,
and that we need to restructure.
Exactly, we should do an assessment.
Here's the case. If we deal effectively with the outstanding payments now, let's not deal with what's about to come. But if we effectively tackle or restructure the debt that's accumulated over the period, how much of a respite will that be to the kind of austerity in which we find ourselves now? So
let's do this comparative analysis. You are owing independent power producers $1.3 billion. The money that you're even getting from the IMF is just $3 billion. Wow. And even the first tranche, you just got $600 million. So if you are supposed to pay all these debts, then it means that the money that IMF is even giving you for this year, because this year we are expecting $1.2 billion from the IMF, it will not even be enough to pay the independent power producers. But their stance is very clear. They don't want a restructuring, because in restructuring, then you have to agree to a certain amount of haircut, a certain magnitude. All they want is that we understand you are facing challenges in
paying. But then defer the payments.
Exactly. Defer payment, restructure, give us a payment plan. If you are paying us 2%, 3% per this month, whatever month, give us a plan. But we are not coming to the negotiation table to sit with you and agree to 15% haircut, 20% haircut.
This is more or less,
restructuring.
as though you're owing utility, right? At the domestic level, you need to pay your electricity bill. Electricity of Ghana, the company of Ghana says, if you pay half of the amount, we'll give you the electricity back. But then your bills keep piling up. But that's not the solution to our problem.
Exactly, it's not really the solution, but the position we find ourselves in, this is monies that we owe in US dollars. And our problem has been balance of payment, because we generate so much dollars here. We don't print dollars here in Ghana. So we rely on the inflows. Currency. Exactly. So if you are getting more dollars, but you are using them to pay debt and interest on loans and all of those things, it simply tells you that you will not have enough to do the most important things in the economy.
Okay, there's a second leg to the conversation, which has got to do with some of the other sectors that may be affected as a result of the domestic debt exchange program. But let's focus on the power sector, because there's an implication. The IPPs are not happy about this. Dr. Yusuf Suleiman, as an energy policy analyst, joining us to help us understand what's happening now. How do we deal with this? Would you opt for an entire renegotiation of the energy sector deals with the IPPs, so we start afresh and then clear what we have on the table? Is that the way to go?
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Blessed, and or evening, and to you and your cherished viewers in Ghana and across the globe. Thank you for having me once again. Yeah, indeed, that would have been an easy way to go if it was something that was feasible. But at this moment in time, we are so entangled. And first of all, I have to express my displeasure with respect to this inertia, Blessed. I think you and I spoke on this a couple of times, more than 2 months, I think. And fast forward, it appears we are still in the same point, or at the same point. And that is so bad. What's happening to the negotiation? Getting to the end of the month, last month, we're told something beautiful came up between IPPs and then ECG. And that's actually substantial. That's what is supposed to happen. ECG should have been the one who's supposed to face the IPPs. That is, if ECG was to be made independent, to be able to know the ins and outs of their cash flow. Unfortunately, that's not the case. ECG is totally, usurped or entangled with, finance ministry. So in this case, it's only the fact that the finance minister will have the biggest say. But as to this inertia, there are two things. Let's say some deals have been signed, they were draconian, to use this word before. Now, we need to renegotiate that. We have to look at the cost-benefit analysis. If renegotiating them will enhance, will give us positive returns, why not? It's good to always try. I will tell you that all the take or pay, I will always stand for the fact that we should try to see what we can do about them. Other than that, where we are is not sustainable.
Okay, here's the point. Why not also blame the private sector and by extension the IPPs? These are guys who've made a lot of profit. They've been making money for God knows how long, since John Mahama's era.
Yeah, so if a businessman does not know how to take advantage of opportunity, then he's not really a businessman, and that's just what they have done.
So it's free lunch for them.
They look at the situation and took smart advantage of that. Unfortunately, also probably our politicians also were a bit, hasty in some of the decisions that they made. Normally, I don't like to bother on what has gone. I always believe in finding solutions to problems. And so I get so disturbed when I see political actors of this moment still complaining about the fact that a previous government signed this so and so. That is a fact. There were certain things that have been done. And so why don't we look at strategize to get away from that? What we are doing now, and the very good question you asked, my good brother, is an excellent one. Is it sustainable? That is not sustainable. What we need to do is to enhance the efficiency of the entire value stream, the generation, the distribution, and then the transmission. In fact, Blessed, if we are phenomenally efficient, whether take or pay or take and pay, it makes no difference. And this is the reason. See,
so demonstrate that to us, for instance.
Yeah, so this is what I'm trying to say. If you are doing assuming take or pay, and then you are able to maintain your uptime, you develop your infrastructure to the extent that you can always run everything that you purchase in terms of the installed capacity. What stops us from exporting power? What stops us from building our infrastructure, especially the transmission bit, to be able to export power? We keep on complaining that we have about 5,000 installed capacity, potential capacity that we can, bring to life if we should have, utilities, or let's say gas to do that. Yet, if you look at currently our peak demand at some times and what is available for us, we are sitting on tenterhooks, and I always say that. And so it wasn't surprising that whenever you have a glitch with respect to Ghana gas operation, we have a semblance of doom so. What it tells us is that you don't have any excess capacity. Don't say that you have any excess capacity. So whatever is there, why don't we channel our energy to take advantage of that? Because it's already there. Whilst we also look at restructuring, but I always say that if we want to restructure, let's pursue that. But if it's going to worsen the situation, let's just think of a way.
I'm looking at the books now. And based on what Isaac is just telling me in studio here, dealing with the 2.3 billion is not the end of the story. Certainly not. You have the debt piling up by the minute, if we have to say. Once the power is on, we are indebted. That's how bad the situation is.
So why did we put ourselves into this precarious situation? And that's a fact. So what I will say is that we need to improve our efficiency. I'll repeat it. That's the way out. And that's why I said, even if you take or pay, you are doing take or pay, and your uptime, you are able to put all the plants online, you will have the sources that you can send the power to. You shouldn't even be worried about making capacity charges because the plants are always running and people need power. Yet we are not doing that. And the reason is just because of inefficiency. Now, coming back to what you've asked me,
yes,
I think ultimately there will have to be some restructuring of a sort. Because there's no way we can meet it. Even the IMF loan we are going for, 3 billion. Look at the kind of hassle we are going through, cutting everybody's head at the end of the day. So that is not a situation that everybody likes. But at the end of the day, what I want to propose is that the government has to be forthcoming and forthright with this kind of negotiations. You don't expect somebody to do 100% debt restructuring with you at this moment in time. When you are also even interested, you have interest in even renegotiating, some of the power pitches that they have, power over, or they have control over, or they have strategic advantage over. If you look at it on every angle, the IPPs, they have so much competitive advantage as compared to government of Ghana. And so what we need to do, let's divide it. If it is 60% that we want to do the debt restructuring, let's have a payment plan. I think at all this point in time, there hasn't been anything like that.
Okay.
There hasn't been any payment plan of a sort.
Right. We need to go.
We
need to go. But let me find out from you your thoughts on this. Yeah. If the IPP's worst case scenario, and that's how I'm looking at it, because anything can happen. The deadline's passed. The government hasn't settled all the bills. If the IPPs decide to pull the plugs, how long can we go without them, without the IPPs? Really? How many months? How many days?
We'll crumple. Blessed. We can't survive without the IPPs at this moment in time. And I'll tell you why. If you look at what is happening, our total generation mix, they are a huge force to reckon with. The entire thermal base is mostly occupied by the IPPs. And we are talking about 65 to 70% of that. How can we survive? Even the common glitch in Ghana gas, we are having done so. Not even the IPPs will take out power. So yes, IPPs taking out power, and then if you look at in totality, whatever they contribute in a day, let's say what Ghana produces, they are almost getting closer to 50%.
Wow.
Blessed. That's what we're talking about.
Wow.
Closer to 50% of the power. If such a person pull off the plug, and I think they are also sensitive to Ghanaians' plight. Maybe that's why they are still doing all this. So yes, we cannot survive. It's very difficult to survive. We would have been able to survive if our renewables were forthcoming. Unfortunately, we can't bet on them. We haven't diversified our generation source, and so we are still dependent on the thermal base. So until we break out of the thermal base, diversify our generation portfolio, bring in a lot of renewables, to relieve that much of pressure, we can't do much without the IPPs.
Okay. Now I get the scenario. Thanks, Doc. I get it clearly. You give them a haircut, they pull the plugs, and there won't be any haircuts in the sector anymore. But thanks for spending some time with us, Dr. Yusuf Suleiman. But the haircuts will continue.
Absolutely.
Maybe because we are not the ones, holding on to power.
The fact that government has been insisting for more than 3 months tells you that there is possibly an external force, possibly one of the conditions.
And that might be the IMF conditionality.
Because mind you are restructuring Eurobonds, which are in dollars. So if you are telling us you have challenges with your balance of payment, that's why you are restructuring dollar-denominated bonds, then why are you not looking at IPPs who are also around 2.3 billion US dollars?
As for the IPPs,
And possibly the only
I just hope we don't go there because we all need the light.
Yes.
I mean, we all need.
Let me introduce some shocking statistics. If you look at our total installed capacity, it's around 5,481 megawatts. IPPs contribute 75.4% of that installed capacity. Now, dependable capacity is around 4,975 megawatts. IPPs control 83.1% of it. And IPPs, their installed capacity is around 4,132 megawatts. So if you compare it to the total one that we have, it means if they shut down, we are going to be in, very hot waters. So that's the reality.
Any comments from the finance ministry on what they intend to do?
Well, I think the only thing, the only reason why IPPs are still, producing is because the more they produce, the more the money also goes up. And then they have the assurance that once the IMF and the World Bank are in the picture, they will surely have their money. So why don't you produce and, still have your money back later on?
So defer the auditing, defer the haircut, and you make more money at the end of the year.
For the haircut, it looks as if they will definitely get the haircut.
Okay, let's see if Ken Oforiatta will get some power. To do the haircut, because if they pull the plugs, that's it. You can't do any haircut again.
No, not at all.
I'm just being kidding with that. But thanks for joining us, Isaac Ofieje, with the latest on what's happening in the finance sector. But we're also looking at health when we get back from the break. The Ghana AIDS Commission revealing to us now that there are more than 100,000 persons carrying the HIV virus in Ghana. Maybe that's close to you. You never know. So I'll tell you about it when we get back. Please stay.